The sky above the planet Thalos was no longer blue. It had turned red and dark. The great star that gave life to this world was dying. The people of Thalos watched with fear as their sun burned slower and colder every day. Buildings were falling apart. Crops were dying. Children coughed in the thick air. Their scientists said the planet had only weeks left. No power, no water, no hope. The leaders of Thalos sat in silence. Their city was once bright and proud. Now it was quiet and cold. High Commander Tyrell stood in the tower of Skyglass. He looked out at the red clouds and falling ash. "We waited too long," he said. His voice was heavy with shame. "Our friends will not help." The Council of Light turned their backs. Even the Steel Union said no. No one will come. Chancellor Zuni, older and weaker, turned to him. "Then we must send the
final call."
Tyrell's eyes went wide. "The Deathworlders?" Zuni nodded. "Yes, the humans." The room went silent. Everyone knew the stories. Humans came from a world full of fire, storms, beasts, and ice. A place where only the strongest lived. A planet called Earth, a true death world. Long ago they shocked the galaxy by surviving wars that no one else could. They did not just survive, they won. But humans disappeared after the Great Silence. No one saw them for 200 years. "They are not like us," said one advisor. "They fight too hard, they feel too much. If they return, they may not save us, they may judge us." Zuni stared at the dying sun. "Then let them judge. We have no choice." They sent the message deep into space. A single line repeated over and over in the old human code. "To the Deathworlders, help us, save us, or end us. We are ready." The message burned through satellites, nebulae, and dead systems. Then silence. A day passed. Then 2. Then 5. People began to give up. Many stayed in their homes. Some left for the hills. Hope faded like the light from their sun. But on the 7th day, everything changed. At midnight, a strange light appeared in the sky, not like a comet, not a ship from any known species. It was black, smooth, giant. It did not fly in. It simply appeared. No sound, no radio signal. It hovered above the capital city like a shadow over the stars. Tyrell stared at it. "Is that a human ship?" "No markings," said the tech officer. "It does not answer hails. It does not scan back. It just watches us." "What do we do?" someone asked. Tyrell gave a simple order. "Wait." The people of Thalos gathered outside. They looked up in fear and wonder. The sky seemed smaller now. Suddenly, the black ship opened a hatch. A small object dropped from it, fast like a meteor. It crashed into the middle of the city, into the Hall of Origin. But there was no explosion. Just a low hum like a heartbeat. Soldiers rushed to the site. They pointed their weapons at the pod. The air around it shimmered. Then the pod opened with a hiss. Inside was not a robot, not a beast, not an army. It was a girl. She stepped out slowly. Human, maybe 20 cycles old. Her skin was pale, her hair black. She wore no armor, only a dark suit that shimmered like the stars. The soldiers aimed at her. She did not flinch. "Identify yourself," Tyrell shouted. She looked at him calmly. Her voice was soft but clear. "My name is Ray. I heard your call." "You came alone?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes, that is enough," the crowd whispered. Was she lying? A spy? A trick? "You do not fear us?" Zuni asked. She stepped forward. "Fear? I come from a world where mountains move and oceans boil. I do not fear, I remember." "Remember what?" Tyrell asked. Ray looked up at the dying red sky. "I remember what it means to burn and still rise." The wind grew cold, the stars blinked above, and everyone knew something terrible, or something powerful, had just come to Thalos. Ray stood in the ruins of the Hall of Origin. The smoke from her pod still floated in the air. Around her, soldiers held weapons tightly. One twitch and lasers would fly. But Ray didn't move. She looked at the sky as if she didn't care about the weapons pointed at her. Commander Tyrell stepped forward, slow and careful. His voice was strong, but his eyes were sharp with doubt. "You say your name is Ray, and that you came from the death world, Earth." "Yes," Ray said softly. "You came alone." Ray smiled. "Yes, I told you. That is enough." One of the soldiers laughed nervously. "She's just one human. Why should we fear her?" Suddenly, Ray turned and looked at him. Her eyes were strange, not just human. They had thin rings of silver light around the pupils. "Because I'm not here to fight you," she said calmly. "I'm here to test you." The crowd began to whisper. "Test us? What does she mean?" Zuni, the old chancellor, walked closer. "We sent a message asking for help, not a test. And humans don't just help anymore," Ray answered. "Not after what happened in the silence." Tyrell stepped forward again. "That was 200 years ago. We don't know what happened to your people. You all just vanished." Ray nodded. "We vanished because the galaxy feared us, so we hid. We grew stronger, smarter, we watched, and we waited." Tyrell looked confused. "Waited for what?" "For a reason to return," Ray said. "And your message, it was reason enough." Without warning, Ray lifted her hand and touched a broken wall. The stone glowed softly, then melted like wax. The soldiers stepped back in shock. "That's not human tech," one whispered. "That's impossible." Ray turned. "Your planet is dying, but something made it die faster. A weapon, a toxin, a plan. Someone wanted Thalos destroyed." Zuni frowned. "We thought it was natural. Our sun is old. It is burning out." "No," Ray said. "The sun was attacked. From inside." "How do you know?" Tyrell asked. Ray walked past him, and for a moment, the wind stopped. No sound, no breath, just her voice. "Because we saw the same signs, right before Earth burned." Gasps filled the air. "What do you mean?" Zuni asked. "You said Earth is the death world, that it survives anything." Ray looked at the red sun above. "Even a death world can bleed. Even we almost died, but we didn't. We became something else." "What are you now?" Tyrell asked. She turned to him and her voice was quiet. "We are the answer to your question. Will the galaxy survive, or will it burn with us?" The black ship above the city still hovered in silence. It did not send any signals. No weapons were seen, but it was clear. It was watching Ray. "Who controls that ship?" Tyrell asked. Ray looked up at it. "No one controls it. It follows me." "You mean it obeys your orders?" Zuni asked. "No," Ray said. "It knows what must be done. It watches. It remembers. Like me." A soft rumble came from deep underground. The ground cracked. A red glow came from the cracks. Ray turned her head. "It's waking up," she said. "What is?" Tyrell asked, stepping back. Ray whispered, "The thing that killed your son." Suddenly, a tremor shook the capital. Buildings swayed. Lights went out. People screamed. Ray stood still. From the cracks in the ground, long metal roots rose, old, rusted but alive. They looked like giant cables twisting and pulsing with red energy. Tyrell shouted, "What is that?" Ray walked toward the roots. She placed her hand on one. The red light faded, and the cable stopped moving. "This was buried long ago," she said. "Not by your people, but by those who feared what you might find." "You mean someone did this on purpose?" Zuni asked. Ray nodded. "Yes, and it's only the beginning." She turned to the crowd. "This planet is not the only one. There are others, dozens of them, all poisoned the same way, all close to death." Tyrell felt his knees go weak. "Why? Why would anyone do this?" Ray looked at him with sadness in her eyes. "Because they wanted to erase the past. A past that connects your people to mine." Zuni whispered, "You mean We are linked? Ray gave a slow nod. Thalos was once a human outpost. Before the Great Silence, your people are not just aliens. You are our lost cousins. The crowd froze. Generations of history now questioned. Ray stepped forward, voice strong. I did not come to rescue you. I came to remember you, and to see if you are worth saving. Terrell took a deep breath. And if we are not? She turned her eyes toward the black ship. Then the ship will decide. At that moment, the ship began to glow with blue light. A low hum filled the sky. The air shook. The stars blinked. The people of Thalos looked up. Fear returned to their hearts, because now they understood one thing. Death had not come in anger. It had come in silence. And it had touched the sky. The city of Thalos was shaking. The sky glowed blue from the black ship above. The ground pulsed with red light from the roots below. People were running, shouting, crying. Soldiers aimed weapons at the moving cables under the streets. But Ray walked calmly through it all. Fire burst from a broken tower. Glass shattered across the street. The heat was enough to melt metal, but it didn't touch Ray. She walked through the fire like it was only mist. Commander Terrell watched from a distance. His heart pounded. She's not human, he said. Chancellor Zuni stood beside him, leaning on his cane. No, she is more than that. One soldier ran toward them. Commander, we tried to scan her. Our tech failed. We tried to lock weapons. They won't fire. Terrell turned pale. Even our machines are afraid. Ray moved through the city, following the red light below her feet. The metal roots were leading her somewhere. She could feel it. She came to a large plaza. In the center was a tall tower of black stone, ancient and forgotten. Most people had never noticed it before. Now it glowed red from the base. Ray touched it. Her eyes flashed silver again. I know this place, she whispered. It was buried. On purpose. She pressed her hand to the stone. The tower opened. Inside was a deep stairway spiraling down into darkness. The walls were smooth, not made by Thalos hands. Old writing glowed softly. It was human. Very old human. Ray began to walk down. With each step, memories came to her, not hers, but something older. A message hidden in her DNA. Left by those who built her. Outside, Terrell gave the order, follow her, but as the soldiers reached the black tower, a wave of heat pushed them back. A shield, invisible but strong, had formed around the entrance. No one gets in, a scientist shouted. Only her. Zuni looked at the sky, then the ground, then at the closed tower. She's being tested and we're just watching. Deep below the surface, Ray reached a chamber. It was round, with smooth silver walls. In the center was a glowing orb floating in the air. It pulsed with a slow beat, like a heart. She stepped close. It's still alive. As her hand neared the orb, her skin lit up with lines of silver light. Symbols appeared on her arms and neck, language from Earth, lost for centuries. The orb spoke, not with sound, but inside her mind. You are the carrier, the bridge, the flame that walks. Ray whispered, who are you? We are memory. We are the warning. We are the last voice of the first ones. The chamber showed her visions. A long time ago, humans had reached the stars. They built worlds. They touched suns. Thalos was one of those worlds, a secret place, hidden from enemies. But then the Great Silence came. Not a war, a wipe. A shadow swept the stars, cutting off humans from their own outposts. No signals, no rescue, just silence. The survivors on Thalos changed over generations. They forgot who they were. They became something new, something different. But something evil had also stayed behind. A machine, left buried deep in the planet, designed to keep the truth hidden. It was the source of the poison. The reason the sun was dying. Ray stepped back from the orb. Her heart raced. Her hands shook. "This is not just about saving one planet," she said. "It's about waking up the truth." The orb pulsed once more. "Then rise, Firewalker. The stars are watching." Above ground, the shield around the tower dropped. Trell and Zuni rushed inside, leading a team of guards. They found Ray standing in the chamber. Her body was glowing softly now. The silver lines on her skin were fading. "What happened down here?" Terrell asked. Ray turned. Her voice was deeper, stronger. "I found where the fire started." Zuni looked at the orb. "What is that thing?" Ray shook her head. "Not a thing, a message from your past and mine." Suddenly alarms rang out across the city. A voice came through the comms. "Enemy signal detected. Multiple crafts incoming." Terrell grabbed his device. "Who is it? Who's attacking?" "Unknown," the voice replied. "Not on any galactic records. They came from behind the sun." Zuni looked at Ray. "Did you bring them?" She looked to the sky. "No, but they were waiting. For this moment. For the Firewalker to wake up." Black ships, smaller than Ray's, broke through the clouds. They were shaped like blades, fast and sharp. No sound, no light, just death coming from above. Terrell turned to Ray. "Can you stop them?" Ray looked calm. "I didn't come to fight your enemies." "Then why are you here?" Zuni asked. She looked at both of them. "I came to find out if you still have the fire to fight for yourselves." The ground shook again. A new voice, cold and loud, echoed across the city from the invaders. "Surrender the human, or burn with her." People screamed. Weapons failed again. The stars grew darker. But Ray... She stepped out of the chamber, her silver eyes glowing brighter now. She walked through the rising flames and falling ash. She walked through fire and did not burn. The black blade ships hovered above the capital like dark birds waiting to strike. People screamed and ran through the streets. The sky was now black and red. The sun's light had almost vanished. Inside the ancient tower, Commander Terrell gripped his weapon tightly. "Shields are down," a guard said. "They're not just jamming us, they're draining us." Zuni stood by the chamber door. "It's them. Whoever erased Earth's outposts. They've returned." Ray stepped forward, her voice was calm. "They never left. They just hid better than we did." Terrell looked at her. "Then why now? Why attack after so long?" Ray looked up at the broken ceiling. The stars were vanishing. "Because the truth is waking up, and they fear truth more than any weapon." Outside, the enemy ships released. Small machines, silent black drones. They moved like insects, fast and many. They shot beams of red heat that melted walls and burned soldiers. But they didn't attack everyone. They were scanning, searching. They were looking for Ray. In the tower plaza, one of the drones found a child hiding under rubble. It moved close, red laser ready. Then Ray appeared, silent as wind. The drone turned, aimed at her. But before it could fire, Ray raised her hand. Her skin shimmered silver. A wave of invisible energy burst out. The drone froze, then dropped to the ground like a broken toy. Terrell and Zuni arrived seconds later. "She's using some kind of tech," Terrell said. "No," Zuni whispered. "That's not just tech. That's memory." Back in the deep chamber, the glowing orb Ray had touched began to pulse again. It had awakened when Ray entered. Now it was sending something. Data, messages into the sky. One of the scientists shouted from the control tent near the tower. "We're picking up an old code. Human, but older than anything on record." Zuni turned to Ray. "What are they? Hiding?" She stepped beside him. "Not just the past. They are hiding what your people were meant to be." The black ships began to move again. This time they charged weapons. One ship opened fire on the city wall. Huge beams of red burned into stone. People screamed. Buildings shook. Fire spread. In the chaos, Ray climbed to the top of the tower. She stood tall, eyes glowing silver blue. "Now." She spoke to the invaders in a strange old tongue. The ships paused. Then one sent a reply, a sharp signal. It blasted across the city. Everyone with tech felt their ears ring. Ray dropped to one knee. Blood trickled from her nose. Zuni ran to her. "Are you all right?" "They're not speaking to me," she said. "They're speaking to the ship." She pointed up to the giant black ship that had brought her. It had stayed silent the whole time, just watching. Now it moved. The black ship above the city began to glow, bright blue. It didn't fire any weapons. Instead, a deep voice echoed in the minds of everyone in Thalos. It was not human. It was more than human. The line must not break. Terrell fell to his knees. "What is that?" Ray stood slowly. "It is the Ark ship. It carries the last light of Earth. And it just gave you a chance." Suddenly, blue light spread across the city. The drones froze in place. Some fell, some vanished in smoke. The enemy ships pulled back, confused, unprepared. That moment of pause gave Thalos time. Trell ordered troops forward. Now, while they retreat. But Ray wasn't done. She turned to the orb in the tower's heart and placed both hands on it. "Show me everything," she said. The orb obeyed. Visions flooded her mind. Humans in old armor, placing seeds in the Yao ground of Thalos. Children laughing under the first artificial sun. A warning. If this world goes silent, it means the galaxy is dying. A final order. Hide the truth. Until someone strong enough wakes it. Ray gasped. She saw a name. Not hers, but the one who made her. "I am not the last human," she whispered. Zuni turned to her. "What did you see?" She looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. "I saw the beginning. I saw who you were meant to become. Your people. They were chosen, not by chance, by design." Terrell asked, "For what?" "To be the spark." At that moment, the enemy ships launched one last wave. Dozens of them rushed forward. The black Ark ship responded. It opened. From its underbelly, hundreds of silver pods dropped, fast, glowing, silent. They landed across the battlefield. From each pod, a human stepped out, but they were not like Ray. They were older, armored, silent, and very, very dangerous. Trell stepped back. "Who are they?" Ray stood tall, her voice clear and steady. "They are the Fireborn, soldiers made to protect the hidden truth." "Yours?" Zuni asked. Ray shook her head. "Yours." The battle had begun, but something had changed. Now Thalos was no longer alone. The truth was no longer buried, and the fire was spreading. The skies above Thalos were full of fire and smoke. Enemy blade ships moved like shadows, fast and deadly. But now, something had changed. The silver pods from Ray's Ark ship had opened, and the warriors inside, the Fireborn, had stepped out. They did not speak. They did not run. They walked into battle like they had done this before, many times before. Their eyes glowed faint blue. Their armor was black and silver, shaped like the old Earth design. Some held strange weapons that hummed with power. Others used no weapons at all. They were the weapons. Commander Terrell stared at them as they marched past. "Are they machines?" he asked. "No," Ray answered. "They are alive. Grown, trained, and awakened only when the truth is in danger." Zuni stepped forward. "You said they're ours. What did you mean?" Ray looked at the Chancellor. "The Fireborn were made from your ancestors. Human blood, Thalos blood. That's why they were sent here. To protect you." Trell's eyes widened. "You mean they're part of us?" Ray nodded. "You were never just refugees. You were a seed, a spark, waiting to rise again." On the battlefield, the Fireborn moved through the streets like ghosts. One Fireborn walked through. Enemy drones. Every machine that touched him shut down and dropped to the ground. Another moved so fast it looked like blinking light. In seconds, she took down 3 blade ships with nothing but a small pulse weapon on her wrist. The people of Thalos watched from rooftops and windows. For the first time in many years, they saw hope. But the enemy noticed too. One large blade ship pulled back from the front line and opened its underbelly. From it, a new weapon dropped, a black cube, humming with red energy. When it hit the ground, the sky darkened. The air grew heavy. The cube opened, and from it came a voice. Not loud, not angry, just cold. Your kind was erased for a reason. You should have stayed gone. Ray felt her legs weaken. She knew that voice. In her mind, a memory unlocked, a face half human, half machine, the one who had betrayed the Earth colonies, the one who started the Great Silence. His name was forgotten by most, but Ray remembered. Morrow, a scientist who once dreamed of saving the galaxy, but in the end he chose to control it. From the cube, a tall figure stepped out, metal skin, red eyes, slow steps. Morrow had returned. The Fireborn paused. Some took defensive positions, others scanned the figure. But Morrow only looked at Ray. You survived, he said. A single ember from a burned world. Ray stepped forward. You failed before. You'll fail again. He smiled. I never failed. I only waited. Terrell raised his weapon. Shoot him. But when the soldiers fired, the energy bolt stopped mid-air, frozen in time. Morrow looked around, bored. I erased better armies than yours with a whisper, he said. Do you think I came here for war? Zuni shouted. Then why are you here? Morrow pointed to Ray. For her. She is the last part I need. Suddenly, Ray's body glowed bright silver. Her feet lifted off the ground. Her arms opened, eyes wide with light. She was changing, not into something else, but into her true form. Ray was not just human. She was a vessel, a protector, a key, made by Earth's last scientists before the fall. She held the final code, the fire that could wake the old machines across the stars. Morrow wanted that code. He wanted to control the past and the future. But Ray had made her choice. She closed her eyes, and she let the fire awaken. Blue light exploded from her chest. It shot into the sky, into the Ark ship. Then from the Ark ship, it spread to the stars. Beacons on dead planets lit up. Satellites buried in moons turned on. Old human ships lost in deep space blinked alive again, all across the galaxy. The past was waking up, and Morrow was afraid. No, he whispered. She wasn't the key, she was the signal. The Fireborn began to glow. One by one they activated to full power. Their armor shifted, forming wings, shields, weapons. Terrell could only stare. They're changing, Zuni gasped. They're not soldiers. Ray landed on the ground, eyes blazing. They're guardians, and they remember what was lost. Morrow's body started to shake. Red cracks formed on his arms. His control was slipping. He tried to run back to the cube, but the Fireborn surrounded him. Ray spoke one final time. You erased history, but fire leaves ashes. She raised her hand. The Fireborn attacked. A beam of white light rose from the city into space. The enemy ships turned and fled. The black sky cleared, and the sun of Thalos began to shine again. The people gathered in the plaza. Some wept. Some cheered, and some simply watched as Ray walked to the top of the ancient tower. Zuni asked her, Is it over? Ray looked to the stars. No, it's just begun. The fire had passed, but the smoke still hung over Thalos. The enemy ships were gone. The Fireborn stood watch over the city. The people were safe, for now. But Ray knew something was wrong. That night, she stood alone at the top of the black tower. The stars were quiet, but in her mind she heard whispers. Not from Morrow, not from the Ark ship, from something older, something still awake. Zuni walked up the tower steps, slower than usual. He leaned on his cane, eyes heavy with questions. You're not resting? He asked. Ray shook her head. There's no rest yet. He looked up at the stars. You lit a fire across the galaxy, but will it warm us or burn us? Ray didn't answer. She touched her ear, where a faint signal was humming. Only she could hear it. A voice. Broken. Far away. We are still here. Help. Zuni. Noticed the look on her face. What is it? Ray stared into the sky. A ghost. The next morning, she called Terrell and the Fireborn commanders. On a hollow screen, she showed the signal. Faint, old, but human. It's coming from deep space. Sector 9 Zeta. No planet, no station, just a void. Terrell frowned. A trap? Maybe, Ray said. But maybe not. Morrow erased records. He wanted us to think no one was left. Zuni stepped forward. And if someone survived, out there all this time? Ray nodded. Then they need us now. The Ark-ship prepared to leave orbit. Ray chose only a small crew. One Fireborn unit, Zuni, and Terrell. She didn't want a warship. She wanted answers. As they left Thalos, people gathered and watched the ship vanish into the stars. They didn't cheer. They waited. Inside the Ark-ship, the halls were silent. Lights flickered gently. The ship itself felt like it was listening. Zuni walked slowly through a memory hall where Earth's history was kept in light and sound. He paused at an image of old Earth, blue and green, alive. Do you ever miss it? He asked Ray. She looked at the image. I was born after it died, but sometimes I dream of it. Zuni smiled. Then maybe a part of it still lives. As they reached the signal source, the crew looked at the map. There's nothing. Here, Terrell said. Just dark. No, Ray said. Look again. The ship scanned deeper. A shape appeared, faint, flickering, a station, hidden between gravity waves, almost invisible. Old, very old. They moved closer. The station had no lights, no signals, just the ghost code repeating again and again. We are still here. They docked. The airlock opened with a loud hiss. Cold air rushed out. No signs of life. Inside, the walls were covered in vines, not plants, but cables, grown wild over time. Lights flickered. Screens flashed old human symbols, broken words, glitches, then a sound. Footsteps. The team raised their weapons. From the dark hallway, a figure appeared. Not a soldier, not a robot, a child, a girl, maybe, 10 years old, pale skin, glowing eyes. She looked at them with no fear. She spoke softly. You came. Zuni stepped forward. Who are you, little one? She looked at Ray. I'm the Echo. They followed her deeper into the station. She explained in simple words. When Earth fell, this station hid. We were the backup, a memory vault, a safe copy of the human race. Where is everyone? Ray asked. They're here, the girl said. But not like you. They reached the main chamber. Thousands of pods lined the walls, all dark, all silent. Zuni touched one. Sleep chambers? The Echo nodded. Their bodies failed, but their minds stayed. We saved them, in the signal. Ray understood now. The signal wasn't just a cry for help, it was a mind field. A network of memories, thoughts, voices, ghosts. The last thoughts of a lost generation, trapped in a machine for hundreds of years. They can't leave, the girl said. Not without someone like you. Ray looked at the core of the chamber, a glowing orb of code, slowly cracking. They're fading, she whispered. The Echo nodded. Unless you light the fire inside this place too. But just as Ray stepped forward, alarms echoed through the station. A new signal had entered the system. Not friendly, not human. On the Ark-ship, Terrell saw it first. Hostile signal approaching. A black ship, bigger than anything they'd seen before, dropped out of warp. It didn't fly, it crawled, covered in metal spines. Alive. It wasn't Morrow's, it was older. Something worse. Inside the station, The echo looked afraid for the first time. They followed the light. They hunt memory. They feed on truth. Zuni gripped Ray's arm. We can't fight that thing. Ray looked at the orb. We don't have to fight it. She placed her hands on the core. We wake the ghosts. Energy poured from her. The chamber lit up. Pods flickered. Voices filled the air. So many voices. Laughing, crying, singing, remembering. The enemy ship fired its first weapon, a beam of pure silence aimed at the station. But before it hit, the station itself lit up blue. The memories inside became light, and that light became a wall. The silence bounced back. The enemy screamed and vanished into the void. Ray fell to her knees. The echo caught her. It worked, the child whispered. Zuni helped her up. What did you do? Ray smiled, weak but alive. I didn't fight it. I let them remember. The station floated in silence. Ray sat in the middle of the memory core, her hands glowing faint blue. She was tired. Her body felt heavy. But inside her chest, the fire still burned. The Fireborn stood outside the chamber, guarding the entrance. Zuni sat beside Ray. You lit a spark in the dark, he said softly. She opened her eyes, and now the shadows are coming. In the Ark ship above, Commander Terrell watched the galaxy change. On the star maps, strange shapes began to move. Not ships, but storms. Not built by machines, but by something older. They're moving toward the light, the Fireborn pilot said. Terrell looked closer. How many? The screen zoomed out. Too many to count. Back in the station, Ray stood up slowly. The echo, the strange glowing child, stood beside her. You woke the minds, the echo said, but now they know. They always know. Who? Ray asked. The echo's face turned cold. The feeders. Ray remembered what Morrow had said before he fell, that something worse was coming. Now she understood. The feeders were not just hunters of humans. They were destroyers of memory. They moved across galaxies, finding life, learning its history, then erasing it forever. That's what happened to Earth's colonies. That's what silenced the stars. And now they were coming for Thalos. Zuni stared out the window. How do you fight something like that? Ray didn't answer. She didn't know. The Fireborn were strong, but the feeders were not normal enemies. They couldn't be stabbed or shot. They fed on thought, on truth. But Ray still had one power left. She turned to the echo. Can we send the memories to Thalos? The echo tilted her head. You want to share the fire? Ray nodded. If they destroy this station, the memories must survive. Not as data, as people. The echo led them to the deepest room, the seed vault. There, dozens of crystal-like data cores were stored. Each one held voices, stories, minds. We can send one to every region of Thalos, Ray said. Zuni frowned. But if we do that, this place will go dark. It must, Ray replied. This station was a cradle, but the child must grow. They worked fast. The Fireborn loaded the memory seeds into pods. Terrell sent them back toward Thalos using the Ark ship. Every major city would get one. Each seed would carry a different part of Earth's forgotten history. Art, science, dreams, language, truth that could not be erased again. But then the alarm sounded again. The sky outside turned dark red. Zuni looked at the map. They're here. Dozens of feeder ships dropped out of warp. They didn't look like ships. They looked like holes in the stars, moving black shapes with twisting arms, wide mouths, and no engines. One opened its maw and released a beam of silence, not a weapon, but a pulse that made the station walls flicker and shake. Ray screamed. The memories inside her chest burned hot. The feeders were not just near, they were inside the signal. The echo grabbed Ray's hand. They're coming for you, because you hold the core memory. Ray nodded. Then I have to run. No, the echo said. You have to burn brighter. Ray walked to the heart of the station. The memory orb still glowed, but dimly now. I will open the fire completely, Ray said. Zuni grabbed her arm. You won't survive that. She smiled gently. I was never made to survive, I was made to ignite. Terrell and the Fireborn ran into the chamber. Evac pod is ready, the commander said. Ray looked at all of them. Go, you must carry the seeds. Zuni looked heartbroken. Ray, I'm not dying, she said softly. I'm becoming. They left her behind. The last Fireborn closed the door. Ray stood alone in the core. The feeders reached the edge of the station. They opened their mouths. Darkness poured inside. But Ray, the last Fireborn human, did not kneel. She stepped into the orb, and she whispered 3 final words. Let them remember. Light exploded across the sky. Not fire, not energy, memory, the laughter of children, the voice of a mother, a soldier's promise, a teacher's song, a child's drawing, all the pieces of humanity, flashing into every corner of space. The feeders tried to eat it, but it was too much, too human, too alive, and the feeders began to scream. They twisted, burned, folded into themselves, and vanished. From Thalos to the far edge of the galaxy, people looked up and saw lights in the sky, like stars being born again. In the quiet of the ship, Zuni watched the last pod land on Thalos. A single light blinked. Inside it, one voice spoke softly, Ray's voice. I am not gone. I am fire. Wherever truth is spoken, I live. The Ark ship returned home, but the station was gone, turned to dust and sparks, and in its place a new signal echoed across the galaxy. They tried to erase us, but we remember, and memory is stronger than fear. The galaxy was not silent anymore. The signal of fire had spread across stars, moons, and lost stations. It passed through cold planets, dead satellites, and broken ships. Wherever it reached, something woke up. People remembered, and the feeders were gone. On Thalos, dawn broke over the city. Children ran through the streets. The skies were clear. For the first time in generations, there was peace. Real peace. In the central plaza, a large silver pillar stood tall. Around it, glowing vines of data pulsed softly. This was the seed of memory, one of the crystals Ray had sent back before she burned bright. Everyday people came and touched it. When they did, they saw visions, a forest on Earth, a mother reading bedtime stories, old cities with tall glass towers, a man writing poetry on the moon. Each vision was a gift, a memory, a reminder of what humanity once was, and could be again. Zuni stood before the pillar. He was older now. His beard was fully gray. His eyes, however, were filled with light. A group of young cadets stood around him, listening closely. Who was Ray? One asked. Zuni smiled. She was like you, curious, brave, but different. How? She was the spark, the flame we thought was lost. But she never belonged to just one place or time. She belonged to all of us. In the sky, the Ark ship floated silently in orbit, now renamed the Starkeeper. Inside, Commander Terrell walked the halls with a new generation of Fireborn. They were not grown in pods anymore. They were born on Thalos. Human, but they trained to protect the stars, to carry memory forward. Terrell entered a quiet room at the heart of the ship. A single light pulsed inside a crystal. Ray's voice echoed gently. Keep moving forward. Don't let them forget. He touched the crystal with his hand and closed his eyes. I won't. On other planets, the fire had reached far. On a snow world called Kavara, ancient mines opened again, but this time not for metal, for old knowledge. On a desert moon, a colony once thought extinct had begun to rebuild. using blueprints from the seeds Ray sent. On a dark station near the edge of space, a group of children learned how to sing old Earth songs. They sang not in fear, but in joy. Across the galaxy, people whispered a new phrase. We are the fire now. But even in peace, questions remained. Who built the feeders? Where did they go? And what if they returned? Zuni stood before a council of new leaders, now formed from many worlds. He looked into their eyes. We cannot hide from the stars anymore, he said. We must go to them, explore, learn, share, protect. If we run, the dark will return. And if it does? One asked. Zuni smiled. Then we'll light the sky again. 1 week later, the Starkeeper prepared for launch. Its mission was not war, it was discovery. Fireborn pilots trained young explorers. Scientists packed maps and seed crystals. Artists and teachers joined the crew. Terrell stood at the helm. Zuni watched from the launch bay. You're not coming? Terrell asked. Zuni shook his head. My fire burns here, but yours? It belongs to the stars. Terrell saluted. Zuni returned it with pride. Inside the ship, in the quiet of the command chamber, a small voice spoke from the intercom. It was Ray's voice, not a recording. A living spark, living in the ship's memory. Are you ready, Terrell? He smiled. Always. Then light the stars. The engines roared. The Starkeeper lifted from Thalos, golden fire beneath it. The people cheered. Children pointed to the sky. And in the heart of every living being, something stirred. Hope. Far away, beyond the edge of known space, something watched. Not evil, not enemy, but curious. A planet once thought empty blinked with a new signal. A ship, old and silent, powered back on, and somewhere deep in the void, a voice whispered, they survived, they changed, and they remember, because fire cannot be killed, because truth cannot be silenced, because memory always finds a way. They sent an SOS to the Deathworlders. What answered, shattered the stars, and lit the galaxy again.